morning. Look, the daylight. Okay, so yes, I did get a good night's sleep last night. Yay. A couple things before I start. Yes, I did shamelessly keyword stuff the title, and I'll get into that in a second. Thank you to everybody for all your comments, your shares, your likes, and very importantly, for people who have donated. I want to give a shout out to the most recent was Rainer 9765. This was with the super thanks. Also Sarah Hammer 2901 and Kitty Pups PK9 NK. So thank you. I still don't know what I'm going to do with the revenue from this channel, but we'll figure that out. Also, I want to ask you guys a favor. It's not money. I don't want money. I mean, only if you feel compelled. But, you know, I read the comments. I read as many as I can. And what I want to ask you to do is, if you're a person that reads the comments, you don't have to, but if you go down through the comments and you happen to read one that touches your heart, whether it's somebody who's suffering with their health care, or it's a provider and you relate to what they're going through, or the people who are making comments that they have no faith in our government. And because I feel that a big problem that we have is that our people have lost hope in our government, in our country, and you feel compelled, so I want it to be genuine. I don't want you to just go and do it, and not just on my channel either, okay? If you're watching other videos with related topics, when you're scrolling through the comments, please give these people a word of encouragement. If you feel compelled and it's something that you can relate to, we really need to stick together as a community to support each other and lift each other up. And it will do them some good, and it will do you some good. So I'm putting that out there. And the last thing before I get started is I want you to remember that you are the heart of America, just like me, just like your neighbors, and anybody else who lives in this country. So, the title of the film is, or the video is, Healthcare, Women's Votes, Woodrow Wilson and Donald Trump, and this does all tie together. So there was so the women's suffragette movement, the women's suffragette, okay? Did you all know that we've really only had the right to vote as women for just a little bit over 100 years? Yes. Did not happen right away as soon as we became a nation. Women had to fight for that vote. We've all heard of Susan B. Anthony, and there are other women, but I want to talk about a lady named Alice Paul, because she did something strategic and it was genius. Okay, so she was one of the suffragettes. She was not the only one, and she was doing her demonstration and activism during the time when Woodrow Wilson was the president. Now, Woodrow Wilson was actually he was the first Southern person to become the president of the United States after the Civil War. And a couple significant things happened while he was president, one of which, very importantly, was World War I. So Alice Paul and the people that were working with her, the other women who were fighting for votes, they would they would demonstrate in front of the White House, and they would have signs. They were silent sentinels is what they called themselves, and they would hold up signs silently. They didn't say anything at the time, and they would say, "How long will women wait for liberty?" And in the beginning, Woodrow Wilson was kind of amused by this, and he would tip his hat, you know, kind of being a little bit of a smart aleck, okay, to them. And then, you know, he didn't really pay a lot of attention. He didn't think it was that important. It's just, you know, ladies, they have no brains. They're just doing something to occupy their time, okay? These women, they did other things, okay? So some of which I'm going to tell you not to do, okay? We're not going to be destructive. We're not hurting people, and we're not going to hurt property, okay? We're not breaking laws. We're going to use the laws. So these women, they did organize a parade, and they didn't get very far before people's men, okay, really kind of broke up their parade. They were throwing things at them. They did not agree with women having the right to vote. So they had a lot of opposition against them. Well, then World War I came around, and Woodrow Wilson's going all over Europe to different countries, and he's giving his speech, and he's talking about great things like liberty and freedom and the people. But back home, these ladies were paying really close attention to what he was doing and what he was saying. And every time he would say something about freedom and liberty and the rights of the people, they would write their statements down on paper. And their protest started in Lafayette Square, but eventually they did move in front of the White House. And what they would do is they'd write these statements that he would say, and they would on a piece of paper. And of course they're out there talking now. They weren't silent any longer. And after they would say whatever it was that he would say, they'd throw his words into a fire. We're not starting fires without a permit, okay? Got to keep it legal. But the point was, they used his words against him. They also embarrassed him. They embarrassed him. They showed his hypocrisy. When there was the Russian envoy came and they were in Congress, they were there for a couple days, and these ladies, they went the first day and they had this big banner. It said, "We, the women of America, tell you that America is not a democracy. 20 million women are denied their right to vote. President Wilson is the chief of their national enfranchisement. Help us make this nation really free." And they would put these banners up while the Russians were there. And again, a lot of people did not agree with what these women were doing, and they thought it was unpatriotic. Now, does this ring a bell? Because I want you to think about Mr. Colin Kaepernick. I hope I said his name right. The young man that was kneeling. He got a lot of flack too. People thought he was being disrespectful. It doesn't mean it is. It's just what people think, okay? And people thought that these women were being disrespectful. They shredded up their banner. And do you know those ladies came back the very next day? They had a duplicate banner and they hung it again. And they embarrassed Woodrow Wilson into making white votes for women a legal thing. He never really agreed with it, but they embarrassed him into it. And that is why I'm saying we need to use Donald Trump, not just Donald Trump, but any other politician who talks about health care and making America healthy again, but does not support a program that provides health care to every citizen in this country. They're hypocrites, and we're going to point it out. We're going to point it out, okay? And we're going to use their own words against them. Which, side note, healthcare is not a civil right. It is a human right. I have more information coming on this too. Did you know that the United States of America actually presented to the United Nations that health care is a human right, and yet we do not support the same, I'm not even sure what the word is, but it's the policy of some sort that the United Nations follows about. This is ridiculous, totally ridiculous. We don't follow our own policy that we presented to the United Nations. Do I have to say anything else? All right, you guys, that's it for today. Little history lesson, but that's where my motivation is, and I know it works because there were women who set the precedent before us.